Gentlemen, welcome. Danny, I'll go to you first with your Liverpool connections. The sale of Philippe Coutinho, there's the air of inevitability. What's your take on it right now?
Well, I think it's, from a footballer's perspective, it's disappointing because we all know his quality. He's a fantastic player to watch and he makes the Liverpool squad better. We'll wait and see what they do with the money. But from a business point of view, it makes sense. I mean, lots can happen between now and the end of the season. So many variables where the deal might not go ahead for some reason or another. He wants to leave, which is a big factor in any club selling a player. And the amount of money we're talking gives Liverpool a fantastic opportunity to reinvest some of that money and get maybe more than one, because we know there's certain areas in the team that they need to strengthen. So it makes perfect sense, although it is a shame because you would imagine at this stage in the season replacing his quality, his assists, his goals, his set plays, although Virgil can hit a set play, we'll wait and see on that one. It's going to be hard to do business to get quality in to replace him, but they, high up the pitch, Liverpool are fine. They have got plenty. They've got Lallana coming back. Sturridge is still in the background. Solanke I like, although he hasn't, got the goals yet. He's progressing, and they've got Salah and Mane, who are both terrific footballers. So I'm not sure he's going to go out and spend all that money on a replacement if that's what Liverpool fans are expecting. But it's a disappointing. When you're Liverpool Football Club and you're selling your best players, it's always disappointing.
Christian, the knowledge that you have of the way the inner machinations of that club work, are you surprised, not necessarily by the transfer, but the timing of the transfer?
Yes, I was surprised. I certainly didn't expect it going into Christmas, but in the last 2 weeks there was definitely a sea change. And I think, actually, I was fascinated by the communication of this decision, because just at the most basic level, it's terrible for Liverpool to lose an incredibly valuable member of that team, loved by the fans, and a great success of the Fenway era. An £8 million signing, now a key player for Brazil going into a World Cup. So, it's incredibly sad at every level. Something changed, and I think what changed was that this became do or die for Barcelona. I don't think in England...
So it's more Barcelona rather than Coutinho actually saying, look, we knew we really wanted to go.
He wants to go, but what changed was the valuation that they've managed to achieve, an absolutely spectacular valuation that reflects everything about the politics of Barcelona. The sale of Neymar was a huge embarrassment for the regime running that football club. When you have an escape clause set at €220 million, it's because you don't want to sell the player. You don't expect Paris Saint-Germain to hit that escape clause. When they did, it was late in the summer. It left Barcelona embarrassed, short of their star player. It left La Liga short of its future, with Cristiano and Leo at the back end of their careers. And so this was a do-or-die transaction for Barcelona to replace, as close as they could, like with like. And Liverpool have exploited that in a strictly business sense to get a fantastically high valuation.
So Barca wouldn't have put them in a corner to say Liverpool now or never?
I think the hard work, the preparation... Listen, I was at Liverpool when, Barcelona worked over Mascherano, who, by the way, has the same agent, Kia Joorabchian. So... that work was all done last summer. The player was, to use, Liverpool language, unsettled, to use the player's language,
Well, what is the terminology? They're unsettled. Does that mean conversations have gone on?
Of course they've gone on. Of course they've gone on. There's no major signing in the world where those conversations don't happen before. But given that the whole world knew that the player's dream move was Barcelona, the question was one of when and how much. And from Liverpool's perspective, a huge amount of money, and at the earliest next summer was plan A. And they probably never thought it would be feasible to get to these kind of valuation levels at this time of year. But I think the board of Barcelona need to show that they've replaced, Neymar with a superstar going into the World Cup.
The when is fascinating. Is an issue of huge debate. But the real winners of the when, i.e. Coutinho moving out, is going to be Brazil, because you're taking a player out of a busy English domestic season, plus the Champions League as well. He will be effectively playing in La Liga, which allows Barcelona to rest up for the Champions League, because obviously he's cup tied for that. And he won't, because because the football, okay, there's pace and there's an element of physicality to Spanish football, but he won't be exhausted going into a World Cup. And I think the Brazilian coach, he must be absolutely delighted. He's got one of his key players, number 10, who's going to be coming in there, whatever position he plays for them. He will be fresh going. So Brazil, for me, are the immediate big winners in terms of 2018.
Forgive me as a businessman pointing out that closely related to Brazil and Barcelona is, of course, Nike. He's a Nike superstar. Yeah. And they're a great beneficiary wearing both those hats. As I said, the communication was interesting.
Did you guys
Nike
with that tweet?
Yes.
Is it the way that Klopp and Liverpool expressed their reaction to what happened?
Yes, I don't. Yeah. I was asking Henry earlier. I cannot recall, certainly at Liverpool, a situation where the sale of a player, where the bulk of the communication was left to the manager as opposed to the club, or the owners, or the board, or an official spokesman. Different formulations are used. Often the club is the use. The club statement on this sale was one sentence, but you clicked through to a extremely long statement by Jurgen, and I thought that was fascinating. And I think that harks back to Fenway's arrival at the club and the previous regime, and they have shown themselves to be very sensitive to the very particular facts around Liverpool, where Liverpool fans are ultimately somewhat untrusting of the suits, of owners, of directors.
With good reason, down the years.
And Fenway saw the playbook on how not to do it with Hicks and Gillette. And so actually, you get the sense in having got Jurgen to stand up and say, we're selling him, this is why we're selling him, and all's going to be well at Liverpool, that they realised it was vitally important to Liverpool fans to hear that Jurgen had signed off on that decision. And let's hope he's equally forthright in how the money gets spent. Because we were talking earlier, it's so important that the club use the money to balance the team. Because as a fan, it's felt very unbalanced in the last year. A wonderful front five and a much less good back five. And, I'm sorry to beat up on him, but the obvious need for a world-class goalie. If there was one thing I'd love the money to go on, it would be a world-class goalie.
Well, do you agree with that, Dan?
I do.
The balance needed for Liverpool to mount a serious challenge?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think... look, from a footballing perspective, Coutinho, in the 5 years he's been at Liverpool, has not done enough to warrant the fee. But we know that of many players in the last 2 years who are going for astronomical amounts. So let's forget the money for a second. The money's relevant in the fact, what can you get with that to make your team and squad better? The problem always is spending that quickly, because in January people are obviously going to see Liverpool have just received that money. Waiting to the summer is more sensible, because your window of players is bigger. And I think that Jurgen Klopp now, hopefully, will have some more, I say power, he'll have enough of a say to get things done, because he was given the money for Van Dijk in the end. He waited for the one he wanted, which I think is right, as well as not going to spend the money for the sake of it. He's got him. But I do agree with the goalkeeper thing. I mean, the other thing that's going to be interesting as well is I still think in the middle of midfield, there's a gaping hole there. He's let Chan leave at the end of the season. Doesn't fancy him, obviously, or the money was too, or he wants to leave, whatever. I think we've got Keita coming in, but I'm talking about someone really powerful presence, creator, someone who, in Liverpool central midfield, in all the years I've been watching them and playing there, there's always one you can hang your hat on. In terms of being the leader. I mean,
Souness to Gerrard.
Yeah, yeah.
Is Keita a player that they've firmly set the sights on? Is he the man to fill a void such as that?
I'm not sure, In what I've seen, I'm not sure. Now,
and from what you hear, talk about the way Coutinho has seen out these last few months. He's covered himself in glory. What you hear about Keita is he's not necessarily down tools, but is that a reflection on the different men that we're discussing here, that perhaps one was a Liverpool player, one could possibly be a Liverpool player?
I think subconsciously sometimes you can look like, you've down tools when you're protecting yourself a little bit. I wouldn't judge him on that. I don't know him well enough to say that. What I would say is that he's obviously very athletic and he's got lots of qualities, a bit like Jordan has. Jordan Henderson's fantastic professional, good athlete, and does his job really, really well, but isn't creative enough if you want to get a team that's challenging for the title. and winning Champions League. So I think of, talk about Gerrard, Souness, talking about Alonso, Mascherano, you know, these types of players. Didier Mann was a fantastic footballer. Well, Steve McMahon, yeah, a little bit before my time.
Only marginally. Henry, for you, you've got £146 million to spend within the hierarchy of Liverpool. Well, you never know. I'll check his wallet later on.
Is that what the Times paid to get you?
So where do you put that money? What's the top of that checklist?
Goalkeeper
also.
Yeah, it was interesting. Sort of going into the club for one of their recent games. Ray Clements was walking in from the car park, and he was absolutely besieged. And I know Liverpool, you know, like all clubs, they love their former players, particularly someone like Clements, who gave them such great service. But I also sort of detected that element of, it was more than nostalgia. The reason why they were gathering around him, it was because here was a powerful goalkeeper. Yeah, a fantastic goalkeeper, a reliable goalkeeper for club and country. And maybe there was an element of, if only we had someone of his stature, in
Any names jump out in world football at the moment?
Well, I mean, Oblak obviously is an outstanding individual. You look at some of the major goalkeepers and they look pretty settled at their clubs, which is going to be difficult to get out. Maybe there are one or two good young goalkeepers coming through who Klopp's had a look at. But it's interesting, just coming back to Danny's point about central midfield and Emre Can potentially leaving for Juventus. I always thought when Oxlade-Chamberlain moved, and there was a debate about should he play in wide, Liverpool have got enough creativity, particularly on the right. You look at Salah's been fantastic this season. I just wonder whether he's looking at Ox as a potential central midfielder, because Klopp has suggested he can play there. Southgate's not been sort of necessarily so impressed, but I think he can do that. We saw, in Maracanã with England, in a friendly year before the World Cup, he scored a fantastic goal there. I think he's got that energy. I mean, I agree with Danny. I don't think, he's clearly not in the sort of Gerrard or Souness league. But I just think we've already seen signs of the Ox already developing under Klopp. He's, he does develop players, and I can see him maybe having a chance in that central midfield role. So they wouldn't necessarily have to go and spend the money outside.
But you must, for Liverpool fans to hear that, with the greatest respect to the Ox, who I think is showing signs of improving. But we've just taken 150 million quid for somebody who Barcelona clearly think is going to be one of the next 2-3 big leading footballers in the world. Let's not go down the Arsenal road, where we over time we don't replace like with like. What in hearing Jurgen talk, what he's talked about, the progression, the journey we're on, that money should be spent on like for like, which means a world-class central midfield player.
If we look at the net spend of Liverpool, and since Fenway have been involved, with regard to, the numbers stack very favourably from a business point of view. Yeah. But is a fan bothered about that when there's not a pile of trophies next to them?
I think it's very clear that American owners of Premier League clubs have a bottom line orientation that doesn't sit well with many football fans, and definitely doesn't sit well with
Liverpool. But fiscally should be applauded, shouldn't it? Any business should be run, surely?
Fans don't give a damn about fiscal prudence and responsibility. They really don't. That's my job. Make sure the ship can keep sailing. But as a basic operating principle, reinvesting proceeds in talent to keep that team performing and improving and progressing should be taken as read. We're going to talk about Arsenal later, and my big issue with Arsenal is they haven't done that. And I think that's irresponsible for custodians of these great clubs to basically take money off the table for shareholders or for profitability or both, and not reinvest every penny in maximising the value of the assets and the quality of the playing squad. And I come back to it. If we're selling Philippe Coutinho, the only possible rationale can be that those funds can be reinvested to create a better team. Because whatever you say, it's a team game, not an individual game. Philippe Coutinho was not going to deliver for Liverpool, all other things being equal, the Premiership.
But Klopp's already started that, hasn't he, with Virgil van Dijk? Everyone's been crying out for years, saying you've got so many good, fantastic attacking players, you need a centre-half. We've just seen too many mistakes.
But that's the first one, having two goalies who are quite good is insane. And that smacks of some sort of financial clever, let's be sensible, rather than let's just go by the best, whatever it takes,
But
which is what they did with Van Dijk.
But then let's judge Klopp in the next 2 transfer windows.
Well,
I think it'd be difficult for him to get a top goalkeeper in this window, but maybe particularly in a World
But he
Cup.
could have done it,
There'd be so
in the
much.
summer.
Yes, but
Listen,
don't judge Klopp. It's judge the question
the
really should be
recruitment
judging the owners.
and the
Are they
recruitment.
going to give him all of that money
Yeah.
to buy players he wants to buy?
But
That's
also,
the
you
question.
know as well as I do, the recruitment team at Liverpool isn't just Jurgen Klopp. It's a bigger team than that, and he has to kind of work with them. And just going back to football, I'm a big fan of Ox, and it's a good point that you make. I think he can develop under Jurgen Klopp, and I've seen things in him in a central area that are really promising. And I think him and Henderson are fine. They're very good players, good Premier League players who will do the job in terms of a central midfielder, what you want them to do. But to go to the next level and compete with Manchester City, Manchester United and Chelsea, you need someone in the middle of the pitch who can open teams up, dictate tempo and play. And they've always had it, Liverpool. And you won't compete with United, City and Chelsea unless you've got one, because it's the most important place on the pitch. Now, some people disagree with that, saying your striker's the most important. You could argue when Liverpool had Suarez, but they still had Stevie G with Suarez. So the middle of the pitch is where games are dictated and where the games are won and lost a lot of the time. So I think it's a massive area for Liverpool to look at. I think Van Dijk's good. I can't wait to see Gomez develop and maybe move more centrally with his power and his pace and his development. He looks a super talent. Goalkeeper, central midfielder. And the only other thing with Liverpool, while we're on the subject, is, Firmino, who has progressed and done really, really well, is he a 20-goal? We'll have to wait and see this season, because he's doing quite well, isn't he? But I don't know if he's your 20-goal. Every team that wins the Premier League...
16 so far, so he's on the
Not
right line.
16 in the league.
He can't get a look in because Salah's
All
got 20.
competition.
Not 16 in the league. I mean,
Okay.
to win the Premier League, in the last however many years, each team has had a striker that's got 20 Premier League goals plus. Liverpool don't have one. So are we... I say we, I always do that. Are Liverpool
Understandable, Dan.
Are Liverpool trying to win the league? Or are they just trying to slowly but surely grow and be a consistent top 4 club? I don't know the answer to that, but what you've got to have is a spine of quality. And at the moment, they've got 1. I think they need 3 more. And I tell you, I'm putting it out there, and I don't even know if he'd go because I've got no inside information. But if you've got that much money and you don't want to spend fortunes on 50 or 70 or 80 million on a player that is overpriced, just go and give Sanchez from Arsenal what the hell he wants. And say, come and be our leader, because he's a super player.
Well, blow your wage structure.
If need be, you can do it cleverly. There's ways of going around that.
Right.
I think that ship may have sailed, and it wouldn't be my choice of deploying the cash. I think go and buy Verratti out of Paris.
He's a holding player.
And that's where we live.
I'm talking about a striker as well.
Who's won the league the last 2 years? Leicester, Chelsea. What was the common denominator? N'Golo Kante. Would he make Liverpool better? Would he have made Liverpool better?
I could argue it was Mahrez and Hazard, but anyway.
A further area of debate.
Mahrez is another one.
But would N'Golo Kante would he today make Liverpool better?
Yes.
Indisputably.
But you can't get him.
He starts for France. He's a world-class central holding midfield player. All I want to say, I just think Liverpool have to aim... When you use an adjective like fine, I feel like I want to slit my throat.
Yeah.
I don't want fine.
No, you need
I
some
want
fine.
brilliant,
But
because
you
we
need
just
some
sold
world-class.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Honestly. And we've got 146 million quid. So you can't say it's because we haven't got the cash. But not fine, please. Fine gets you 4th, 5th, 6th.
Yeah.
You've just made the point. It's not a big 6. It's a 3 and a 3. It feels to me like City, United, Chelsea are breaking away from Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham for pure economic reasons. United, I don't know what Jose was on about. You're talking about Pogba, the most desired footballer on the planet, went there last summer. The most productive centre-forward in the Premier League, Lukaku, went there last summer. Mkhitaryan, probably the most admired creative midfield player in Germany, went there. They're shopping at Harrods.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's making excuses, by the way, but they're shopping at Harrods. Liverpool need to start shopping at Harrods again, rather than just selling the good ones.
With the spine, I think.
And I really believe Jurgen Klopp, let's bring it back to him. He is absolutely A-list. He is the next manager for one of those bigger clubs if Liverpool don't fulfil his ambitions.